At Sonic Central 2024, it was confirmed that Shadow would be joining Sonic Dream Team as a playable character. Now, I am fairly confident that he is just going to be a skin for Sonic and Amy. So far, a lot of the DLC updates for the game haven't had any plot relevance, but just for fun, let's come up with a narrative reason for how Shadow could join this Apple Arcade exclusive Sonic game. With this new update, once you enter the main menu, there would be a secondary story mode added, called Shadow Into Dreams, a fun little reference to Nights into Dreams. Upon starting this story mode, you get a cutscene where Shadow enters Eggman's lab, stating that he hasn't heard back from Rouge in a while, only to find her, along with Team Sonic, Cream, and Eggman, all frozen in some sort of comatose state. He tries to wake them up, but to no prevail. Then, he notices a strange device on top of Cream's capsule that we know of as the Reverie. Shadow rightfully guesses that the doctor must have been playing with things beyond his control, so in a desperate attempt to save everyone, Shadow launches a Chaos Spear directly at the Reverie. Though, this has disastrous consequences. Instead of damaging the machine, it simply absorbs the energy and launches it directly back at Shadow, launching him through a wall, rendering him unconscious and bringing his mind into the world of dreams. As Shadow's eyes reopen, he finds himself in a strange beach-like environment, a zone we know as Scrambled Shores. However, the imaginary zone has been warped into something twisted by Eggman's nightmare fuel. The Ultimate Life Form is naturally very confused by his new circumstances, but he sees a group of badniks and decides the best course of action is to move forward and try and get a bearing on his environment while taking out the enemies. This would be your justification for the first few levels, until eventually, after completing Act 3, Shadow comes across a strange sheep-like creature. She introduces herself as REM, the guardian of the Reverie, and she's shocked to see someone here, as she had just regained control of the realm and locked it down for the next millennia. Shadow is shocked and quite annoyed at this. He may be immortal, but he doesn't intend on waiting all this time for the Reverie to power itself back up. Though, REM explains that if Shadow collects enough Dream Orbs, she might be able to override the Dormancy Protocol just enough to let him out. In return, Shadow can help REM destroy all the minions that are left over from Eggman's brief hostile takeover. These Dream Badniks, or Dreamniks as they'll be called in this story mode, will look slightly different from how they did in the base game. They're still kid-friendly, but they have a nightmarish twist. Eggman did a real number on the Reverie, and although REM could handle this on her own over the next millennia, she wouldn't mind a little bit of help. So, this will be your justification for gameplay throughout this campaign, as you revisit all the zones you played through with the main story mode, but on hard difficulty. Shadow would likely play nearly identically to how Sonic and Amy do, although I think it would be pretty neat if they gave him a Chaos Control ability that allows him to stop time. This could come in handy during boss fights and time trial missions. Also, as long as we're talking about gameplay, I think it would be kind of interesting if they made REM a playable character. That way, you could continue the equal split between the male and female characters, while giving us a character we've never played as before. Although it should be noted that since she would be Shadow's female counterpart in this game, she will play identically to him, with her time stop ability being justified by the fact that, as the Reverie's guardian, she has immense power in this realm, even if she is still slightly recovering from the effects of the Guardian Hunter. Speaking of the Guardian Hunter, it, along with the rest of the boss fights, will be redesigned to fit this new DLC. The first two boss fights, Dr. Crabulus and the Four-Man, will have Nightmare Fuel redesigns. It's ultimately just a palette swap, but it further shows that Eggman's nightmarish effects on the world are lasting. The Guardian Hunter, on the other hand, will be a little bit different. At this point in the game, you have almost restored the Reverie to what it formerly was. and all of Eggman's nightmare fuel is starting to become Magination again. For those who haven't played the game, Magination is pretty much liquid dreams. So, the Guardian Hunter, who is usually a violet color to match all of the nightmare fuel, is now a golden amber to match the Magination. Though, sadly, the monster is still loyal to Eggman's beliefs of conquering the world through the power of dreams, so it must be defeated. Shadow may even comment on its similarities to the Bio-Lizard, both in color and the fact that its free will has been ripped away by a Robotnik. Putting it down is a mercy now. Now, for those of you who have played the game, you may notice an issue here. After all, you only fight Dr. Crabulus as a speed-type character, as the other two bosses are designed for the flight and gliding types. However, the 4-man and the Guardian Hunter use the gliding and flying abilities very sparingly, so I feel like just by adding some springs and dash rings, you could easily substitute those abilities, and a speed-type character should be able to handle the rest of the boss. Once all of Eggman's enemies have been defeated, and they've collected enough Dream Orbs, REM thanks Shadow for his help, and she hopes that they will meet one day in a millennia so she can grant his wish. Despite his grim nature, she believes that he has a pure soul and deserves to have his wishes granted. Although Shadow is hesitant to agree about the purity, he appreciates the thought. They say their goodbyes as Shadow's consciousness is sent back to his body, surrounded by Rouge, Cream, and the rest of Team Sonic, greeting him as he awakes. Though Shadow doesn't admit it, he is very happy to see them all. Only for him then to become annoyed as he realizes Sonic sharpied a mustache onto his face, leaving the story on a somewhat comedic note. So, that is my pitch for Shadow in Sonic Dream Team. Now, I need to mention that I do not think anything like this is going to happen. I'm expecting we're just going to get Shadow as a playable skin, and maybe a few more bonus challenges, but that's it. But this is what I would do if I was in charge of the project. I tried to give something that the fans might like for the Year of Shadow, but I also want to be reasonable with my requests here, since I'm not expecting them to make an entirely new game just to justify one character. I went through a couple different concepts. I even thought of an idea that perhaps this could have been a fake Shadow, one dreamed up from the subconscious thoughts that each of the 6 heroes have about the ultimate life form, both for better and for worse, and Shadow has to live with the fact that he is a faker. Although ultimately, he comes to the conclusion that even if he isn't the real Shadow, he is content knowing that his friends are out there, somewhere, safe. So the dreamed up Shadow simply lives in the Reverie as a companion for REM. But I ultimately decided to go with the actual Shadow just for personal preference. But hey, if anyone wants to adapt the idea of a dream Shadow, feel free. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this pitch video. I've been wanting to make videos like this for a while, as they're kind of similar to my what ifs, but instead of simply saying what if this happened from a timeline perspective, this is full on pitching an original concept, such as a piece of DLC, or an entirely new game. If you want to see more stuff like this, just let me know. But as for now, I'm ComicFan13, and I hope you have a sweet dream.